All right, welcome to All Black Everything 2020 right here on 94.9 CHRW. This is Brown Skin Lady, and for the next half an hour, we're going to be chopping it up with the wonderful members of the Black Students Association. So, welcome, guys.
Hi.
Hi. Thanks for having us.
Hi. So, why don't you each introduce yourselves, state your name. You're all students here at Western, so we all know that. State your name and tell everybody why you're happy to be here today. And let's start with you, Joey.
So my name is Joey. I'm a political affairs officer at the Western's BSA. And yeah, it's just great to be here because it's Black History Month. We're all celebrating, having a good time. It's great to listen to good music and just talk about the issues that affect us. So I'm super happy to be here.
Hi, I'm Janelle. I'm the external affairs officer. And yeah, it's Black History Month. It's a great time to kind of talk about these issues that affect us because no one really,
Nobody gives you this platform.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to say.
And hi, I'm Sydney. I'm the second half of the political affairs officer for BSA here at Western. And yeah, kind of to repeat what they said, it's Black History Month. I mean, every month should be Black History Month in my opinion, but that's fine. But yeah, we're here to just talk about Black issues, stuff that affects the Black community, that affects everyone, and just celebrate Black excellence.
Awesome. So at Western University, let's talk a little bit about celebrating Black excellence. So you guys are from the BSA. Are you one of the only members or one of the only bodies that exist here on the university that you see celebrating Black excellence as consistently as you guys do?
Well, we're not the only, Black organization on campus, but for a long time it was BSA only who was celebrating Black History Month. I feel like this year there's been a bigger push from outside groups to do so as well. But I guess it's the people that it's important to who kind of uplift it. So there's definitely probably, staff here or there who recognize it in their own way. But on campus, the BSA has been the people trying to make sure that it's recognized and remembered by all students throughout campus.
Yeah, this year me and Joey and the rest of our exec team ran a Black History Month opening, closing ceremonies and different events. And yeah, we kind of were the pioneers of that for this year, as in mostly every year as well. Kind of Western doesn't really do anything outside of through our clubs, so we kind of did that. This year we got recognition from them for the first time, which is nice. But yeah, it's mostly through the efforts of students and clubs and people doing their own thing. But it's really just us out here doing it. Yeah. Because other clubs like ASA and CSO recognize them, but the Black experience is different from the African and West Indian experience. But they are similar in the way, but there's definitely cultural differences. So there's very much diversity in that.
Yeah, so definitely covered that.
Interesting. So what kind of events did the BSA put on this month for Black History Month?
This month we had the most events that we've ever had for Black History Month, and they were all just throughout February. We had the opening ceremonies, which was pretty much just a guerrilla advertisement for Black History Month, where everyone just kind of saw the booths, was able to learn facts here and there. Me and Sydney spoke for a bit, and it kind of was a cool platform to kind of just rant about Black History Month and what needs to change, why I started, what it truly is, so that people know. And that was the first event. Then we had the movie night.
Yeah, we had movie night,
which was on Friday.
What movie did you show?
That was pretty cool. We saw Moonlight. Which I feel is a pretty dope movie to see on Black History Month, because it's not your typical Black history or just Black story that you would get from a movie, but I feel it was still an important topic that people should recognize, because it was about someone struggling with their identity and kind of figuring out their place in a Black community. So that was great. That was on Friday. Then we obviously had Soul, which was on Saturday, which was a great time. Soul is the Black celebration.
It's a formal event, so everyone comes dressed up, and you get the chance to have like a sit down dinner. There's a whole there's performances. There's awards. Sorry, there's performances. There's awards. And yeah, it really gives students the chance to kind of have a platform to also perform whether they're a dancer, singer, artist, and kind of for everyone to kind of feel appreciated in the Black community, just because when you're surrounded by the majority all the time on campus, which is the case for every minority because it's all white. But yeah, so I think Seoul was a great opportunity for students to really feel recognized and through their participation and what they put forward in the BSA.
Yeah, and definitely through that, we also carried on to our reflections that me and Joey personally host. Our reflections are kind of a rundown on any issue that we feel we want to talk about or discuss, go into further detail. This year it was interracial dating, which is a big part of Black history. We fought for a lot of those rights and different things like that. So it's a very hot topic in the Black community. It goes in hand with colorism, a lot of other issues.
Mm-hmm.
So we had that as well. And then we had a residence event, then again bringing back Black History Month, kind of similar to open ceremonies. And yesterday we just had our closing ceremonies at the Spoke, kind of going with our theme of inherited excellence.
Yeah.
We showcased some spoken word artists, rappers, just talent all around. And yeah, we closed it off short but sweet, and yeah, it was a great night.
Yeah.
Awesome. So about those reflection sessions that you guys have, are they every month? How often do they run?
They're not necessarily every month, but we try to have them as much as possible.
Mm-hmm.
They have been so far like every other month.
Yeah, we had them more consistently in the beginning of the year, just when November, December hits, similar this year, March, April, just a lot of things going on.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We have our Unity reflection coming up that we do in partnership with ASA and CSO.
Okay, and what is the topic of those?
Those are in the works right now.
Okay.
We're coming up with that, so stay tuned. But we call it culture clash.
Mm-hmm.
So we kind of try to see the similarities, differences, what we both share, stuff we don't, contentions, all that. That's kind of the goal of it. But yeah, that's in the works.
Personally, I would try to have them like as much as possible, but it's obviously not feasible because like students are like busy and they have like things going on. But it's kind of just like whenever there's like an appropriate topic to talk about at a certain time, we feel like it's just like, okay, like we need to have this reflection soon, and then we're gonna talk about like a certain, like for example, we did Black hypocrisy, which was like one of our most controversial topics like ever done, because it was like a true self-reflection on like I feel like how we see ourselves and like kind of like an inner like thought bubble on like the Black community and the Black experience, and that was just like something that we felt like it was an appropriate time, especially with like what was happening in the media, because we use a lot of like social media aspects as well to kind of like talk about these issues. And so like we just try to do that when we can, to be honest.
Yeah, and I think Joey and Sid do a great job at facilitating these kind of open discussions, and it kind of, I think a lot of people walk away from it with a new perspective, and even kind of gives them the chance to think back on what their opinions on certain topics, and maybe even allow them the chance to look beyond that and kind of change their own perspective. So it's really enlightening, and I think everyone should definitely come out to them, and they're super fun too.
Yeah, I think what you do with the reflection sessions is really great because it's touching both. Oh, you're welcome. It's touching both, your communities culturally, in a cultural way, because you're talking about Black issues and you're fleshing them out and asking people what their different opinions are, and it's a great platform for that. At the same time, I'm sure you guys have learned a lot.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
Definitely.
Yeah. What were some of the takeaways that you've had? How long have these been going on, by the way?
I don't even know when
In
they started.
general, I think reflections have been around, I think, since the dawn of time.
For Black people, yeah. Like
for Black people,
since forever.
for BSA, I think we've had it. I just think recently, I'd say the past couple of years, we've actually had people dedicated to them that do them specifically on top of helping out with other events.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know the deadline when it started, but
yeah, they've been happening for a while. But yeah, they're always like, every time we have a reflection, like people never fail to surprise me. I'm always like leaving
definitely.
reflection, just like the perspectives that you get And like I feel like a common misconception for black people is that like we all think the same.
Yes.
But like sometimes like you talk about like you know, black people and like I guess and their financial issues, right? And you'd assume that everyone would think like one way about like this certain issue, but like you go and then you just find out that like it's not just black and white. Like it's sometimes people are like Caribbean or they're North African or like South African or like from Nigeria or Ghana, and even like if they're like from like Brampton or like Mississauga, like the black people there are different. Do you know what I mean? So like it's I feel like the biggest takeaway I've learned from like right to this point is that like you can't just label like someone as like black and expect them to be a certain thing. Do you know what I mean? Like we're not just one generalization of like people. Like we're all different. We all, you know, think differently, do different things, behave differently in like certain interactions. And I feel like the good thing about this election is that like we actually get that chance to talk about these issues, because like the first step to solving them is just like talking about them, which I feel like the chance to do that as a community as a whole, not just like with your friends, which you might think of the same as well. Like when you do it with like a whole community, it's just like a weird experience where like you get to like actually see like what this body of people thinks about like a certain topic, you know?
Yeah, definitely. To add on that too, like definitely having it in a controlled environment helps, because you can facilitate conversation, but you can also manage it. So if people go out of line or something happens, it's meant to be a safe space. And yeah, definitely what Joey said, it never fails to surprise me.
No.
Different perspectives, even talking with Joey, coming up with the questions, we definitely, I don't want to say clash, but we definitely have different perspectives, especially on a female-male basis. And then on top of that, being black and all that. So I feel like that on top of all of the questions and everything in itself is challenging, but it's really rewarding just once you're there and everyone's giving out different opinions. Not even just black people, but other people who attend our stuff. We get also an outside perspective from them, which is really nice, because I feel like sometimes if it's only black people talking about black issues, we don't get heard, and that's a problem that we see in the media and outside as well. As we talk about issues within our community, but when it comes to talking about with other people, they either just don't want to hear it or it's not facilitated unless we do it. So yeah, that's one of the takeaways I like about it.
Yeah, and kind of going off what Joey said before, you kind of realize walking out of all the reflections that there's so much diversity within the black community, and you really can't group them. And so that's something that I definitely kind of realized after going to the reflections, and kind of even learning a bit more about your own blackness, and super interesting. Like I always push those the hardest. Like if there are students on campus who feel shy about going to other events, if anything, I tell them to definitely come out to the reflections, because the perspective you gain, and just even having a safe space to talk about to voice your opinions, because at least for me, I know that I have opinions, and even in class, like I just know it's not a safe space for me to say this, because I don't know if Jacob beside me is a racist, like, you know what I mean? So
no, it's true.
Yeah, it's just like the fact that it's a safe space, I think it means the most, and you're honestly there. People aren't going to judge you. You can say what you want to say, and people will maybe challenge your opinion, but like you're still heard, and I think that's the most important part. Yeah.
Nice.
I want to say that like even like when it comes to like specific issues like that you would think may be offensive, you find that like there's like support within the black community that like you wouldn't realize is there initially. But I've like been impressed in many ways by like the way we like, some of us like think of ourselves, and it's like the way we like treat ourselves as well. It's like there's some things that like I've seen that like made me feel like proud of like the community that I was in, you know? So there's that.
Like what? Can you give an example?
Like sometimes you might think like some persons will like you know when you're like you're pleasantly surprised, right? Of like someone's response. Do you know what I mean? Like you because we have hot takes, like they're meant to be like you know, like racy and like sometimes controversial, right?
What's a hot take for the listeners out there?
So like a hot take is like a trigger question. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
Okay.
it's almost like a troll question, almost.
Yeah.
Like it's because I mean some
like
people
interracial dating. What do you think about it? Something like that.
Exactly.
Yeah,
something
like,
like that.
one of our interracial dating questions was like, do black women push black men towards white women?
Yeah,
and
or like
stuff
or do like white men treat black women better?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But then like you hear someone's response, they say something just like super like meaningful and like well thought out, and like it's just
very
like
deep and
like just reflective. It's like I never thought of it that way, you know? Like I never realized this about like us as people. Do you know what I mean? So it's pretty cool.
Where do you get the inspiration or like the push behind certain questions, like the one you just sort of named, for example? Where does that come from for you guys?
I think it comes through like dialogue, to be honest.
It really
through
does.
like me and Joey just like kind of bouncing off each other, and like obviously social media. I'm a little bit of a social media tyrant, I like to call it. Go on and try to educate some people. So just things on social media that I see and things that I feel like me and Joey experience personally in our lives with our friends and other people around us. And then we kind of bounce off each other, and it's kind of after that would be like, oh, well, I think this, and he's like, oh, but I don't think that. And then we kind of come up with a kind of almost like a male-female perspective on a lot of the questions. So it kind of helps to get both genders included. And yeah,
it's definitely mostly conversational based, because I feel like me and my group of friends and like me and Sydney like get along. So like we talk about things all the time. Where like she'll see something and she'll like say like, oh, what do you think about this, right? And I'll see something, I'm like, oh, what do you think about this? And like obviously like in the world we live in, like every single day is a new story. Like these things, like you want to talk about it, do you know what I mean? Like, and like you talk about it with like your people. So like, and I guess like over time, like we kind of like learned how to like get the conversation to like a point where it's constructive. Cause like sometimes you can talk and like it doesn't really go anywhere, but like I feel like with the reflections is like we've kind of figured out a way to like talk enough to like the point where we learn how to like make a conversation like a truly like meaningful conversation. And I feel like that just happens over time, just like out of just like talking to people like over and over again, you know? And like I guess even like just thinking about these issues like within yourself, like for example, like when we did we haven't done that much reflections, but like when we did interracial dating, one of the like categories was what was it? Like the black men, like how they treat black women, right? And so like you think about like your past relationships and like maybe like your parents' relationships and like maybe like your siblings' relationships, and like you actually think like okay maybe why this is happening, like how is this happening? Like, are we allowing this to happen? Are we facilitating it? Are we stopping it? Are we encouraging it? And these are all kind of questions that like you kind of just like have in your head where like we get the opportunity to like ask towards like the people in the community, you know?
Yeah, and definitely like even going off that like outside perspectives too, we were kind of questioning, because definitely even talking about how black men treat black women versus other women. Joey was running down that most of his friends and black men that he knows prefer black women. And for black women like myself and other people, we actually feel the opposite. We feel like they don't. But statistically, actually, it's proven that they do. So it's kind of like, is that the media is uplifting interracial couples, or are we like fetishizing and being attracted to a certain type of couple and not flushing away the other ones? Or is it actually the case that black men don't want black women? Like that was definitely things we were writing down, and we definitely didn't agree on that, but that was experience. And like I was like, the men I've interacted with, I don't see that, and he's like, well, the men I know, they do. So just that too, just our dialogue between each other constantly on a day-to-day basis. We're always sending each other stuff, always constantly facilitating questions. I think it's just now part of our daily routine, honestly. Just constantly reflecting and overlooking stuff a lot.
Yeah, and like I feel like the more you think about these things too, the more you want to like ask like everyone, you know?
Yeah, and I think that's why it's good, because you can get so many different opinions and kind of learn things that you never knew. But in the end, you guys do a really good job of kind of bringing it all back in, because everyone can spit out their ideas and kind of into the space, and it can get nowhere, but you guys kind of bring it back in and kind of make it make the thoughts self-provoking, and kind of ask people to think about the questions in terms of themselves, you know what I mean? And just I guess help people take away something deeper from the conversation.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and as you know, that's, people might ask, you know, what's the need to have these drawn out meetings or these long conversations about this stuff? But as black people, as people of color, like you don't have a choice. You have to constantly be reflecting on these issues, like relationships, on things like friendships, on all types of things which, you know, which white people for the most part would deem as just part of everyday living, stuff that you don't have to think about.
Yeah.
But it's not the same.
Yeah, like definitely comment on that as well. It's kind of like the fact that we don't live in a world that caters to us, And every day we're constantly overthinking things, overlooking things. Is this racist? Is it discriminatory? Is the reason I got this because I'm a minority, or is it because of my actually earned it, my merit? So those are some things that unfortunately other groups don't get to experience, and I wouldn't wish it on anyone, but it's something we have to go through. So I feel like mental health's a big issue in our community as well, and I feel like it's really important to have these discussions, because if we don't talk about it, who are they going to talk to about it? And you know, it needs to be done. And yeah, definitely it's unfortunate, but it's something that's a necessary evil. And I feel like if we don't have those conversations, people are just going to internalize it, and that's not good for anyone.
Yeah, I feel like they're just necessary, because like they're not conversations that like are about like random things. They're like, these are problems like that we face, you know. And like if you don't face your problems, like they're not going to go away. They're just going to like be in the back corner waiting for like you to run into it. You know what I mean? Like if you never think about the fact that like there is racism in society, like it's gonna hit you and you're not gonna realize it, or how to deal with it, or like what your colleagues might think of it, or like, you know, like in interracial relationships, right? Like if you don't talk about it with the people around you and like their experiences, you might not know what to expect. You might like say for example you feel a certain way about, you know, one or two things, and like you never talked about it before. Like it's just gonna be a whole new problem for you. Do you know what I mean? And so like we try to like have these conversations because it helps. Like it I feel like it helps me sometimes, because I feel like I learn from it, and like the more I can learn from something, like the better off I am, right? And I mostly do most of my learning from like conversations. Like that's, I feel like the best way to like actually take something away from someone and like get to know the people who are around you is by talking to them about like what affects them and like what affects you, and like how it affects each other, and what we can do about it, and like what we have done wrong and what we're doing right. And just like there's so much to it that I feel like means like so much, you know. And I feel like that's why even when people like don't even like speak in the conversations, they still sit there and like they listen, you know, and like they sit the entire time, and they'll leave and be all like damn, like like that really made a lot of sense. And now I'm thinking about it, and like I'm thinking about it all day until like I don't know, like until we get somewhere, you know. So
and I think for some people this is the only place where they can have those discussions, which makes it even more important. Like I wouldn't feel comfortable, and a lot of people wouldn't feel comfortable about talking about their issues to, I don't know, someone who's not black, because they couldn't really do anything to, they can't relate, they can't really give any advice or tips, they can't give their insight. So for a lot of people, this is the only place where they can have that discussion, which makes it so valuable and really builds the community and the people that, like, you end up seeing the same people who come into Reflection, and you kind of make friends. Like it's friends. Super. It's honestly a great opportunity for students. Yeah,
it's a great opportunity for students to make friends. It's the best setting, right? It's getting really real. Did you want to add something, Sydney?
I was just gonna clarify. I realized what I meant by necessary evil is kind of like now that I obviously have, if you want to, I feel like woke is now kind of being it's a new trend, but
really appropriated.
Really appropriated. But the more educated I become, the more aware I am of things, and it is a necessary evil, because ignorance is bliss. And unfortunately, when you do become more educated, I can't help but, like, I'll go to a movie and I sit in the movie, I can't enjoy it because I'm sitting there, I'm like counting the amount of diverse individuals. I'm like, are they showing these people properly? Do they have the right people casted? Or were the people who, even if they weren't casted, were they in it to help, like, make sure everything was proper and correct? And it's just, I overanalyze everything now. Everything I do, it's overanalyzed.
Everything is like political.
Everything for me is political.
Like, I go back to like my family at home, and like I see like my cousins and everything, and I'm like thinking like my uncle's this way because of like the way society. But like just some random things, like just like looking at like just everything just like with a different lens, because like what I've seen or like what I've heard from other people's experiences, you know. So like it definitely is like a necessary thing for like people to realize like what's around them and like actually be woke. You know what I'm saying?
Actually be woke.
Yeah.
That's right. Okay, so one last question before we move on to the next program. And if I could have each one of you maybe answer this, it'd be really nice. It's kind of funny because, you know, we put Black History Month to 1 month. And of course, like you were saying, it should be every month. It should be all the time. It shouldn't just be, you know, but it's kind of for me, I think it's a bit of an ironic thing in society, because Black culture informs like all culture. You know, it's the truth, whether you're Black or not. You know what I mean? And especially here in North America, Black culture is everywhere, and it's kind of like at the top of it all. It's informing a lot. People, you know, you have people who use Blackness as their own, they take it on as their own type of come up. They capitalize off of it. They set beauty standards on it, even though, you know, so, and you guys all here, you're all students at Western, you're very young, and you're at a time of your lives where culture is all around you, and you probably feel a little bit like almost drowning in it, if you know what I mean. So being here at Western, being Black students, and seeing that around you with the students who are non-white, well, first of all, do you see that? Like, do you see non-Black students around you sort of absorbing your culture? And then
absolutely,
Definitely.
absolutely,
For sure.
1000%. Like to the point where like I've heard like white kids saying like the N-word. You know what I mean? Like they get
all the
overexcited.
time.
Like feel like
oh goodness,
they take the culture or like what Black people bring to the table as like a commodity that you can just take.
Yeah,
you know
they
what I mean? Like,
cherry
you can
pick it. They take they like the saying goes, you love our rhythms and not our blues. They take everything that they like about, like hoop earrings was not in.
It was
like for
literally considered like ghetto, and ratchet.
long nails, ghetto, and then now
Yeah.
all of a sudden I see a bunch of non-Black people wearing it, flexing it, and like it's their own. Braids were not in. Now they're French braids. No, those are cornrows, and now they're in. So it's like you're seeing all these Black things being co-opted, and obviously cultural appropriation, that's the definition of it. It's being turned into something else, and they're getting the credit for it. And, you know, it's really upsetting as Black individuals when there's people being prosecuted and people not allowed to attend school. They can't get a job based on the way they look, and yet they're the same people who are shutting them out and criticizing them are still like flexing it, and it's very irritating. And it's like, I know I'm your first Black friend, and how like you're coming to me a month 2 months in, and now you know everything about my culture, or at least what you want to know.
And like this isn't to say it's like not enjoy like Black culture, like not enjoy like Black music or like fashion or whatever, but it's like when you see like people who aren't Black like take what's like your identity and like abuse it and make it seem like it's a joke
trend.
or like make it a trend.
TikTok.
Like it's not like it's a serious thing. Like when you see people who are like rapping, like serious rappers, like about like their story, and then they kind of just like you see like kids just like doing like random stuff, just not understanding like what it is, and then when you tell them, they don't want to listen to you. That's the worst part. They don't want to listen to you when you tell them about what your problem with it is. Do you know what I mean? But like if you go to like any other cultural group and you know even in like the slightest way like absorb their culture, they'll call you out on it. Do you know what I mean? Like they'll make sure you know that like you are taking their culture. But like there's like our culture at this point, and this is why Black History Month is so important. Our culture at this point is like so like intertwined into like the fabric of like this country and like everything we do like in North America and like Western society, and half of it isn't even recognized. Do you know what I mean? Like to this day, I'm finding out things like that Black people did that I had no idea about. Like for all I know, like Black people probably created like television, but it's like you wouldn't know because like they just want to like hide it and like make sure that you don't know, and like you don't realize or appreciate it, but they'll enjoy it and then they won't recognize you for it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think a big part of it is because Black people just aren't credited for their creations and for their creativity, and again it gets appropriated and we're just not appreciated enough. And even that viral TikTok dance, like a Black girl created it,
no
and
idea.
no
idea.
one had any idea it went viral.
Zero clue.
It's called The Renegade.
yeah, I
And
don't know.
literally
This white girl got it.
yeah, I think a white girl did it on TikTok and then it went viral.
She made it easier.
Yeah, and then it went viral and everyone was doing it, but that just goes to show like we're not credited enough. And even in pop culture, like Black culture dominates pop culture. Like hip hop is one of the top music categories, and it's just really frustrating when people take credit for Black stuff that originates from Black history, especially white people, and they just don't give us credit. Then it kind of implies that basically what you have is great, but it looks better on a white person than it would on you. You know what I mean? So, and it's also really frustrating when you tell somebody or when you ask them, can you not say the N-word in front of me? It doesn't matter if it's in a song. They will ask you why. They'll be like, why can't I say it? And it's just because they're just not used to being told that they can't do something, which is honestly a little window into the life of a Black person, we can't do so
Yeah.
many things. And that's just something that they're really not used to being told, like, you can't do this. You got to do a lot of things, just one thing. Just don't do one thing, please.
Yeah, definitely. Like, if you look at singers like Elvis Presley and, like, even today, like, you move on, hip-hop in the 90s, literally, and when it started, it was for Black people, and actually it was pressed against. The community did not want it. They said, you know what, that's ghetto, that's for you guys, we don't want it. And then 10 years later, all the record producers realized it was a hot commodity, and like, you know what, let's buy them up. And you know, at the same time, unfortunately, I feel like Black people are a little bit complicit in it, because we allowed these people to, at our own fault or not, they bought it from us, and we let it go. And obviously there's a lot of reasons behind that. It's not really our fault, to be honest, but there are, like, because the Black community is so diverse and so big, and we have such differing opinions, it's very hard to maintain one front. So that's why I feel like it's very confusing sometimes for non-minorities to know, you know, oh, my friend said I could say and you said I can't, I don't know. And it's like, you know, at the end of the day, there is the internet, you can research why and you can form your own opinion on it, but that is a little bit of a problem, the divisiveness and the diversity within our own community, and we're still trying to work on that and repair years and years of colonialism and culture degradation, all that stuff. So that's obviously had a big role into it. But yeah, it's just, Blackness has been a hot commodity since the beginning of time, and we were really never given the credit. And it's kind of nice to see today that we're kind of starting to get it with the era of social media, and yeah, hopefully it's not forgotten.
Yeah.
Very well said. Well, I want to thank you guys so much for coming on the air and sharing with us all of this. This has been really, really nice. It was short, but it was really sweet. And you guys the BSA is doing really great work here at Western. So why don't you shout out the BSA, Instagram, Facebook, whatever people can follow what's going on, and they can keep up to date with things like your reflections and the other events you have coming up. Yeah,
the BSA Instagram account is just at BSA Western.
Our Facebook, you can just type in UWO BSA or BSA Western. That will come up as well.
That's what we're
main social medias. If you want to email us, you can email us at bsauw@gmail.com if you have any inquiries. We love sponsors.
Awesome. So thank you, Joey, Janelle, and Sydney. This has been awesome. Thank you so much for coming in. And
thanks for having us.
Oh yeah,
thank you.
Yeah, don't be strangers. You guys definitely got to come back soon. So you're listening to All Black Everything 2020. This has been a half hour or more speaking with the Western's Black Students Association, and it's been great. Next up, we got Modi Daja with The Positive Journey, taking us on a positive journey until 7 o'clock. Stay tuned.